The following half-hour show is a paid political program and is not endorsed by this station, management, or staff.
The following program is brought to you by Excalibur Insurance Management Services.
We bring back to today's show Republican United States Congressman from the 8th Congressional District, Rob Bresnahan, who, you'll remember, was just featured in the fall season opening show along with United States Speaker Mike Johnson, talking about the big, beautiful bill and debunking the National Democrats' lies and fear-mongering. Of course, something happened to cause me to bring him back so soon, since he was just here a few weeks ago. And of course, that would be the government shutdown caused by congressional Democrats, where they shut down the government to hold the Republicans in the majority hostage, along with over 330 million of their fellow Americans. The reason, of course, which we'll get to in the show, is they gave a list of demands for them continuing to fund the government. And, of course, the demands were ridiculous and effectively did away with everything, not everything, but most of what the Republicans try to put and get done in the big, beautiful bill. See, the difference, though, is the Republicans did it by the proper legislative means. The Democrats, being in the minority, cannot do that. They can't do anything. They're out of power, as was the will of the voters. So what they're doing is, effectively, like a young child who's having a temper tantrum, taking their ball and going home. Some may ask, how can the Democrats shut down the government when they're in the minority? The answer lies in the United States Senate. The Senate has a rule known as the filibuster rule, which requires for any legislation to pass, there must be a threshold of 60 senators who vote for the legislation. In this case, the continuing resolution to fund the government. So Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer, by not allowing the other Democratic senators to support the CR, shut it down and ended the funding, which effectively shut down the government. On today's show, we will discuss the set of ridiculous demands the Democrats required in holding the Republicans and the rest of this country hostage, in doing untold damage to this country. It's not just a lack of funding, and it's not just the paychecks that will be missed by federal workers. It's more the damage to the prestige of this country. It hurts our financial standing. It hurts our economy. It hurts the stock market. Our financial rating will suffer from this. So there are certain things that cannot be undone, the damage that they've caused in this temper tantrum. And like I've been saying on the show, America is watching.
This is the Volpe Report, a weekly news and political interview show examining the latest local, state, and national issues with Chuck Volpe. Insightful, informative, controversial. The area's premier political talk show, the Volpe Report.
Congressman, welcome back to the Volpe Report.
Chuck, thanks for having me back. Really great to be with you.
Well, I also like the images behind you. The Capitol is beautiful. Regrettably, it's vacant as we speak. Washington is a ghost town, which we'll talk about more in a second. But to set, some context for this show, a couple things before I ask you the first question. And it's from the same play sheet of the Democrat leftists that are running the Democratic Party. The socialists are running and have controlled the Democratic Party. And now they're lying all over again. They're lying about why they shut down the government. They're lying still about you, obviously. They're lying about Medicaid and all that. So first of all, you sit there in Washington doing your duty, and the government is shut down. And there are catastrophic consequences to our economy, to our bond ratings, to our financial position, to the value of the dollar, and on and on, and the fact that most of the federal government and all the workers and all the services they provided are cut and not going on for the American people. So talk about the shutdown and put it in some context. I know the Republicans, and I want to say one more thing. My understanding is, and this is from the Speaker's lips, it was also from Majority Leader Thune's lips, that in this CR, continuing resolution to keep the government funded while you were negotiating policy issues, it was the exact same one they approved a short time ago. Nothing new was added. There were no rabbits or where's Waldo stuck in there. But that's not what they brought to you. They brought you a list of demands, or they were going to shut the government down. So take it from there.
Well, not only was it something that the Democrats voted for once, they voted for this 13 different times. And I guess I could first start off by saying the lights are on, but no one's home, unfortunately. And this totally could have been averted. I don't think we realize how important it is to make sure the government remains functional and operational. Something that really resonates with Northeastern Pennsylvania. 2.94, almost 3% of our workforce are federal workers. That's over 10,000 federal workers that have no idea where their next paycheck is coming from once we get to the bi-monthly payment structure. Something else that doesn't meet the eye is the National Flood Insurance Program needs to remain funded. Training for air traffic controllers and everyone inside of the academy will expire in 30 days. And we're talking about shortages of air traffic controllers, and it contradicts the $12.5 billion that we allocated to air traffic control modernization. I mean, obviously, just this morning, there was a runway incursion that, we need to be making the necessary investments into our critical infrastructure systems. Veterans training and support services could be compromised. Delays on tax refunds and tax processing with the IRS, the national parks. I mean, we just got some guidance yesterday about what the administration plans to do, what they plan to keep open and operational, what they plan on reducing staff on. And it's still very fluid, so we don't have everything ironed out just yet. But talk about small business loans that are going to be delayed. Housing loans won't be processed. So, and here's the thing about the continuing resolution. I think it's important that the viewers at home and our friends and our family and our neighbors understand what a continuing resolution actually is. This is to keep the government funded for 7 weeks. 7 weeks to make sure that all prior, these are Biden level spendings as well. These are Biden era spending initiatives. This is not surprising. And if there was different poison pills that were incorporated through policy to try to insinuate change, I would have a totally different perspective on the continuing resolution. But the reality is this continuing resolution is clean. There's no hooks, there's no anchors, there's no poison pills. This literally just keeps the government funded for an additional 7 weeks to November 21st, so we can run traditional appropriation processes through the various different committees and able to get bipartisan support. Now, you'll hear a lot of people saying this is a Republican shutdown. This is the Republican, because of the filibuster in the Senate. The House of Representatives did what we were supposed to do. We passed this bill through the House of Representatives bipartisan. There was a Democrat from Maine that voted to keep the government open. Now, the problem is inside of the Senate. There are 53 Republicans in the Senate. We need 60 votes. But the reality is there's a place and a time to have these dialogues, these negotiations, and these conversations by not holding the federal government hostage and the American people as a ransom note in the process of trying to negotiate this. Let's pass the CR. Let's get the government back open. Let's get everybody back to Washington, D.C., and figure out a way to solve real problems for the American people.
Well stated, Congressman. And just to be clear, like in my view of this, basically what happened is that the Democrats at the 25th hour come to the president and the Republican leadership and say, here's what we want, or we're going to shut down the government. And some of the things they wanted were to include the Biden commitments for funding health care for illegal migrants that are here in this country illegally. That was one of the conditions, or they're going to shut the government down. Is that correct?
That is accurate because it also correlates to the verification and the eligibility to determine if someone is eligible to receive the proper benefits as an American citizen.
Thank you.
Something else that's important to take away is understanding the implications of what this actually means for the everyday American and to the everyday person who could be calling with a constituency service request. I mean, that's something that we look to do, and that's a big reason why I'm in Washington right now And I'm going to pivot over to an example of how important the federal government is. And sometimes just because you don't see it front and center every single day, we have Steamtown. Steamtown is a National Park Service. Steamtown got shut down because of the government closure. The indirect collateral damage is the Lackawanna Trolley Museum that, ironically, I had my welcome reception at. It's a beautiful, incredible facility in Scranton. And the problem was because they have a shared parking lot, they weren't able to open up the doors and they were literally bolted shut. So later today, we spoke to the National Park Service. We were able to get a temporary agreement in place to make sure that the Trolley Museum can open their doors for business. And that's exactly why I felt we needed to be in Washington. We needed to be down here in the trenches, making sure that I was working with our legislative team, our constituency service team, so we can continue to be responsive. But you could talk about the NPR funding. I mean, basically everything in HR 1 and the Working Family Tax Act, everything is correlating back to is being reincorporated. So it's just not prudent, responsible use of taxpayer dollars. And finding another way to spend another $1.5 trillion isn't what I signed up for. It's not why I ran for Congress. And there's a place and a time. There's an apple and an orange, but we can't compare the both at the same time. We have to be responsible, and we just can't shut down the government and just because of a dream list of what these asks, and they're honestly, some of them are really incredible. If this CR that the Republicans did not pass wasn't clean, wasn't straightforward, the conversation that we would be having would be very different.
Well, it was clean and it was simple, and it was just a continuation of as you pointed out, Biden era spending levels. We're going to continue as you negotiated. But here's what's
with
more,
a litany of waste, fraud, and abuse.
Of course. Well, here's what's more insidious. The Republican Party, following the mandate of the citizens of the United States of America, won the election in November the 5th last year. Donald Trump, with somewhere close to 4 million votes in the popular national vote, and swept every swing state, swept Pennsylvania decisively. You guys went into the majority, the congressional leadership went into the majority in Pennsylvania for the first time in years as a result of November 5th. You control the House of Representatives because that's what the people voted for. And the Senate went up to 53 to 47 because that's what the people, the Republican Senate, were increased to 53. You had full control of government as the will of the people in our republic democracy. So now the Democratic Party comes along because they have no power according to what the people willed, because the people voted them out of office and voted Kamala Harris out, and she lost. And what they do is effectively like taking children ransom. They come to you now and say, unless we get all the stuff that the people said they don't want, like health care for illegal aliens, border security, crimes running crazy, all the things. NPR, you mentioned, as a quick side note, do you know statistically that 93% of their broadcasts are considered anti-conservative, anti-Republican? And that's why it's not just neutral broadcasting to the American people information. It's leftist, far left, Marxist propaganda. That's why it was taken out. But the point is, you can argue whether that's true or not politically, Rob, to your point earlier. But that's what the people voted for. And in the bill you passed by the laws of our Constitution, that was done. So they come along now and say, like a child taking their ball and going home, well, unless you put all that stuff back in and fund illegal aliens for health care and all that other stuff, we're not going to fund the government. That's not by the rules. That's wrong. That's using a Senate rule to basically Shanghai, as I said, and hold everybody hostage. That's my view of what has taken place. I'd like your comment on that.
So I don't think the federal government and our taxpayers should be subsidizing any media outlets, period. I don't think, again, that's what Grandma Lucy would be considering prudent use of her hard-earned money. Number two, something else that was taken away on the counterproposal by the radical left. And I want to say that the leadership is who has really become the radical left. I mean, they have really hijacked their party. And I'm not saying all Democrats are in that same island, but
they're not.
People that are certainly calling the shots right now are so far left. They're worried about primaries. These are political maneuvers for their party leadership. The other thing inside of the other proposal continuing resolution that the Democrats had brought back over was to eliminate the Rural Transformation Fund of that $50 billion.
For
And,
hospitals.
we spoke about this, and, I sat in the White House with CMS Administrator Dr. Oz, with the president, with the vice president, making sure Northeastern Pennsylvania would be eligible throughout the entire Pennsylvania's 8th congressional district, that we would be eligible for part of that $50 billion in proceeds. And this counterproposal would eliminate that $50 billion.
I wonder if the people running the attack ads against you will mention that. and if they're...
I think they might leave that out, perhaps for their own benefit and gain.
Yeah, no doubt. Well, Rob, we're going to take a quick break now and then come right back and get right back to some of the other issues that we need to discuss about this. Thanks.
Looking forward to it.
There are more places you can see the Volpe Report. Watch every Sunday morning at 10:30 on Fox 56 or watch on YouTube at the Volpe Report. More ways to watch. Still the same premier political talk show dedicated to the topics that matter most to Pennsylvanians.
Rob, a couple of footnotes to our conversation on the shutdown. The first issue and item is I talked a little off camera with you, but not on the air, but now I'm going to put it on the air. I watched clips last night, ad nauseum, I might add, of Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer, all the way back to when he was a young man 30 years ago. A clip from 96. And I saw 8 other clips in the various years. I saw 4 in the last 8 years. And you know what those clips, every single one of them said? It talked about the duty that it's owed to the American citizens to fund the government, that the government and our brand, or the United States, could not afford the fallout of a government shutdown, in whatever partisan disagreements on policy or politics could be worked out, but we had a moral obligation, effectively is what he said, to fund the government while we're having this argument. And then I watched, that was 96. Then I watched it in like 2005, in 2012, in 2018, in 2022, in 2023, including a few short weeks ago when, under tremendous pressure by his own party to shut it down in the summer, I think that was late spring. March. He took the bullet and said, we cannot shut the government down and punish the American people. And he voted, and the filibuster was met, and the condition was met, and you funded the government. And it's fair to ask the question, what could have possibly happened now? Did he lie for 30 years? No, he didn't. He's lying now. He's lying about why they're doing a shutdown. It's not for affordable health care. It's for all the things we discussed. And all of those things could be negotiated while they fund the government. So your comment on that?
I would say the hypocrisy is incredible. I was not in Congress 30 years ago or in 1996. I was 6 years old. But I did see those exact clips. And there was an example back during when Biden was president, and there was some conversations about a continuing resolution and efforts to continue to fund the government about what was happening on the southern border. And there was a group of Republicans that were not going to vote to keep the government open unless there was something addressed that the southern border crisis was to be handled. And leadership came in, they were able to corral the troops and make sure that they did their responsibility and fund the government, even though Biden let 15, 20, 17, however many million illegals in through our various different borders. But we did the responsible thing. We kept the government open. That's what I ran on. I did not run on the theory or the premise that we're going to shutter this place. But again, talking about the policy and keeping the government open are vastly different. There's a legislative process to work through when you have disagreements. And there's a time and a place to have those conversations. And like I started the show, I don't disagree that there are elements that we need to work on. We need to make sure that healthcare is affordable for everyone, because it's not. But it's not correlating the two together. 7 weeks is not an eternity. If this was a 1-year continuing resolution, it would be a different conversation. But this is just to give us enough time to be able to work through the process, finalize the appropriation bills, and be able to get a true traditional regular order like we all strive to achieve.
Well, I'm going to put you on the spot in a second, but I also saw about the hypocrisy. I'm watching last night a clip of Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries, the Democrat leader in the House, where you sit, asked point blank whether or not he would forego his salary while the government was shut down. And he would not answer the question. He literally, it was the most lawyer dodge evasiveness. He said, well, I don't have to make that decision yet. He said, well, we don't get paid it's a biweekly, so actually it's not 2 weeks till I'd have to make that decision. And they asked him again, and he disassembled again. He would not say that he's not going to take a check, like all the hundreds of thousands of federal workers that are not going to get a paycheck. So let me ask you, Congressman, would you be willing to forego your paycheck while no one else is getting paid in the federal government?
No, Chuck, that's old news. I sent a letter into the CAO last week deferring any of our income while the government is shut down. I think we have a responsibility as legislators to govern. And I think it would not be fair and to stand in solidarity with the 10,000 plus employees inside of our district that would not be receiving paychecks. It would not be remotely fair for me to accept a red cent. Nonetheless, I'm very blessed that my wife and I set up a foundation, the Green Light Project, that, we support various different nonprofits in the community and throughout northeastern Pennsylvania with. But you think about the 10,000 federal employees that have no idea when their next paycheck might be coming. And they're worried. I mean, not everyone just has a savings account set up or put on the side. You're going to be putting things on a credit card. You're going to be incurring interest. And it's just not right. And all of this could have been averted. This did not need to happen. We could have passed a clean continuing resolution. We could all be back down here this week. We'll be down here next week and actually working on appropriations bills like it was designed.
Sure. Well, yeah, it's an amazing process. So one final follow-up on this is any, idea, since you're there, when you think this might happen? And the follow-up, I'll give you right ahead of me, the follow-up question is this. What's their excuse going to be to the American people when they somehow agree to open it back up? Because it begs the question, what have you accomplished beside hurting everyone, including our brand, our dollar, our economy, the stock market, and everything else? What you did put us in possibly getting our financial ratings lowered as a country. So what did you accomplish when they decide open? Because it's fair to say that if they're true believers in their theory of why they shut it down, they should never open it up.
Well, also, let's say if there's a natural disaster, FEMA funding could be compromised. It's hurricane season.
There are two out there right now, Rob. I've read about two of them.
Blocking and tackling. Like, we need this place back open. We need this place funding. We need this place operational. I'm not sure if they are looking for an off-ramp. If there are dialogues happening between the four corners and the administration about, addressing the expiration of the enhanced premium tax credits. I'm not sure where those dialogues are happening, but I don't think you're going to see the Republican conference right now blink an eye. I think we're going to think we're in the right.
You shouldn't. Well, as we wind down to our last minute or two, on a more personal note, you are now married. For years, I interviewed you, and Chelsea was your fiancée, Chelsea Strube, but now she's your wife. And I think I want to add a comment. If, she is very, very well known in our area. She was the WNEP Channel 16 weekend news anchor, and was for years did that, as well as she would be out in the field doing reporting and all that. And now I'm not going to say, because I have no fact of this evidence of this, but her contract was non-renewed right after you became the United States Congressman. And I'm going to speculate that it's in direct relation to the fact that their beliefs and that run that and own that station do not exactly jive with conservative beliefs and with Republican ideals. And which is, if it is true, and I'm qualifying it, don't know evidence, I do know that her contract came up for renewal. And when it came up before, it was renewed. And this time, right after you got sworn in, they chose to not renew it. So I'll let the audience figure out why that was.
I'll tell you, her anchor contract wasn't renewed because of a conflict of interest and her inability to be a single anchor because of her affinity to me. Also, I totally outkicked my coverage. Chelsea, I know you'll be watching this. Thanks for having my back here as we embark on this. And she's very busy right now. She's working on the Green Light Project. It's a foundation that we established at the Luzerne Foundation to give back to Northeastern Pennsylvania. Obviously, giving back and servant leadership has always been who we are, long before I ever considered a life of public service. So we're going to continue to make differences and make
She's
the
doing that
necessary
now?
reinvestments.
She's
She's
doing
literally, it was launched yesterday, and she's going through all the applications, and she just can't be more excited. And I'm so blessed to have someone like her in the trenches with me.
Well, I know you won't say this, and it's to your credit because humility is one of the virtues to me, that you put a substantial financial contribution personally into that foundation. And I think that should be, since they're running lies about you and talking about stock deals and all, apparently all the dealing Nancy Pelosi did with her financial analyst husband was okay. But nonetheless,
Chelsea's not a financial advisor
Yeah.
by any means, and we have advisors that do all of that.
But most of those things are lies. And I want to, for the record, state that I am aware through other sources, not you, and you didn't even mention it now when I gave you an opportunity. I'm talking about hundreds of thousands of dollars of your own personal money to fund this foundation. And before we go, what will that money go for? What will the foundation be providing money for?
It's going to be themed every year. And this year it's called Bridging the Gap. And it's going to be making those investments into those nonprofits to get them that final funding source to get them to the finish line. We look at apprenticeship programs. We look at our firefighters, our police, our educational opportunities. And, really there's a set of curriculum that you can apply for. And the funding will be between $2,000 and $8,000. Our plan is to, try to get and reach and make an impact to as many different nonprofits as possible. In my past life, I was the past president of the SPCA. I was on Junior Achievement. I was in the Catholic Youth Center. I was involved in Tech Bridge. So giving back financial literacy is something that's also really important to me. With Chelsea, being able to support the arts and theater community is something that she's really passionate about. So this is her way to give back and continue to make a difference.
Right. Like about $50,000 a year is going to be given out. Is that a
The total will be $348,000 over 2 years.
Wow, a lot more than $50,000 a year. Put a one in front of that, $150,000 plus. Well, on behalf of the folks in this district, you're doing the Lord's work, Congressman. Keep it up. And this show is airing Thursday. I'm sorry, the show is being filmed Thursday, which is October the. Is it the 1st or the 2nd? 1st.
For the 2nd.
Oh, the 2nd already. And it will air on Sunday, which means maybe we'll have a government running by then. It's possible. But all of the reasons for the shutdown make the show still relevant, so I'm not worried about that. But at any rate, Godspeed on your work, Congressman. Keep it up.
Chuck, thanks for having me on.
Thanks, Rob.